Hi, Mickey.
Hey, Bob.
I love your hair. That's good. It's a good look. Is that me? Are you making fun of me?
No. There's nothing changed. I don't know what you're seeing. It's.
Have you been hitting the HGH, Mickey? You look decades younger.
I look the same as ever. You're off in your own reality, Bob.
Yeah, apparently so. Anyway, whatever you do, don't lose that look. Whoever did your hair, you should sign them to a lifetime contract.
I plan to come back, but there's nothing different, Bob. I don't know why you're making such a big deal of this.
Now, Mickey, surely this is going to segue before we know it into something relevant to the week's news or something relevant to something other than your needing counseling.
I wouldn't count on it, Bob. There's really no change here.
Okay, listen, Mickey, I got to run. We should go to the Parrot Room, I think.
Let's just go on with the show,
Let's do it.
Okay.
You know what this is, among other things, a great incentive for people who have been listening on podcasts, audio podcasts, to just jump in and watch the whole damn thing in all of its dimensions, because this is wild, folks. This is wild. What I'm looking at is wild.
Well, anyway.
Are you making fun of me? Because like my hair.
No.
In fact, we got a comment in the Parrot Room last week that somebody needs to stage an intervention in my hair.
Of course, this seems to have troubled you. Something about my appearance. Don't trigger me. I'm fine.
Was that a test? This is a test of me. Like, is this a test of what? Whether I'm transphobic or something? Speaking of which, you got a little competition.
Are you talking to me?
You talking to me? Well, you got a little competition in the run for governor. Does the name Jenner ring a bell?
From Caitlyn Jenner?
Yeah. Is this related to your run for
It could be. I don't know.
Governorship?
I tend not to think that Caitlyn Jenner is a serious candidate.
Really?
It's too much for people to swallow. I mean, when just before he became a woman, he killed somebody gratuitously on Pacific Coast Highway in an accident.
Did? I didn't know that. He had a car accident?
He had a car accident. It probably wasn't his fault, but obviously, technically, it was his fault. He braked too late, hit a car. He was towing something. He braked too late, hit a car, and pushed it into the path of a Hummer who was coming the other way, and killed somebody. And that sort of all got completely hushed up in the process of his transition.
Didn't the actor Matthew Broderick kill somebody in a car accident in Ireland, Mickey? I don't hear you talking about that. Is that because Matthew Broderick is not trans?
For governor.
No, I don't think that's it. I think this is. I think the whole thing is falling into place. This strained effort to conceal your transphobia by doing whatever it is you're doing right now.
Laura Bush killed somebody. I mean,
did she in a car?
In a car.
I don't suppose it was George. No.
Adlai Stevenson, when he was a kid, shot and killed a little girl.
And you've never mentioned any of them before either. Isn't that funny? They're not trans. You don't complain about their.
No, the only reason really, Caitlyn Jenner is
more evidence.
Is prominent is because of the transition. Otherwise, she would just be a mere decathlon champion.
A mere decathlon champion.
Involved in a hit
Bruce
TV show.
Jenner, when I was a boy, was on the cover of on the box of Wheaties. Okay,
Wheaties, correct.
And I don't recall seeing you there. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I haven't grokked Caitlyn Jenner. It doesn't. It seems to me that Newsom is on track to win unless the crime issue upends him, which is
Caitlyn the main opponent? I don't keep track of California.
The press is treating her as the main opponent, and they shouldn't. That's the point.
There's nobody else worth mentioning, apparently, because you're not mentioning.
There is a bunch of medium-level Republicans like Cox and the former mayor of San Diego, but nobody who proposes any sort of threat has emerged. If you want to unseat Newman, the conventional wisdom is you need a Democrat to jump in the race.
Mickey, the phone's ringing. It could be your hairdresser. If I were you, I would get it.
It's not.
I think you're due for a touch-up. It was looking better 5 minutes ago.
You have some weird thing about my appearance and you think my phone is ringing? My phone is not ringing. Oh, yes, it is. How come you can hear that and I can't? There's something blocking my ears. Anyway, I'm not going to answer it.
Are you at any point going to reveal like what the idea behind this particular little bit of shtick is?
Why does there have to be an idea behind everything?
We're making progress. You didn't deny that it's a shtick. You're acknowledging now that there's something weird about your hair. That's good. We're making progress.
We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. I have a list.
I yield to you.
At some point, my phone will stop ringing.
Nostradamus. That wig is good for your foresight.
Well, we have Liz Cheney about to get ousted from her position as the number 3 Republican in the House, and being replaced supposedly by somebody who, at least us immigration skeptics in the MAGA base thinks is probably worse than Cheney. At least Stefanik, who's been for a series of amnesties, and her only Trump credentials is that she's mindlessly repeated some of his claims about the election. So she's sort of the worst of both worlds. She's irresponsible on the election and un-Trumpy and conventional on the issues. So
and Trump is backing her, right? Trump is
backing her, but I think there's still a chance to block her because the base, which supposedly, takes its orders from Trump and blindly follows dear leader, isn't following him. I mean, half the base is saying they hate Stefanik and she shouldn't get it. And they, the vote against Cheney comes maybe a few days before the vote against Stefanik. They haven't scheduled the Stefanik vote. So there's still a chance to bounce her.
Okay, but Cheney's toast in any event, right?
I think Cheney is toast, and that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother you, right? Because she's a
hawk.
He's a hawk, and yes.
Are we ever going to see her again? Is she going to turn this into some kind of asset down the road?
I assume she'll try. She doesn't. She doesn't lose her congressional seat, and she's facing a divided field. But the assumption is that once Trump anoints one person in that field, that person will become the focal point of discontent with her, and she will lose. But it's not a foregone conclusion that she loses her seat. I think she must have some plan B. I mean, I think she's sincere in her opposition to Trump, but what is her plan for victory? Politicians usually have a plan for victory, and I think her plan is to run for president. I think it's if
she can be a third party. I would welcome her as a third party candidate in 2024.
Well, it would kill the Republicans.
No kidding. Mickey, you read my mind.
Potentially. I mean, third-party candidates tend to wither toward the end, but
wouldn't take much.
Well, plus the never-Trumpers really have had it with the Republican Party, especially if they nominate Trump. So she could kill Trump. In fact, now that I think of it, the best of all possible outcomes is she runs for president and negotiates a deal with Trump where neither of them, they both drop out and let somebody else actually assume the mantle of the Republican Party. But I think there are a lot of never-Trumpers who just won't vote for Trump this time around, and they've been looking for somebody else. They're unlikely to gravitate toward Harris. They might gravitate toward Biden.
Yeah, well, it's zany out there. Anyway, it looks like the Trumpists are going to take over the Republican Party, right?
Well, yes, but the question is, will Trump take over the Republican Party? And the ridiculous illusion that Trump wouldn't run again, which was prevalent a couple of weeks ago, seems to be dissipating. Even Byron York is saying, well, he's saying he's going to run. It sure looks like he's going to run. So it's pretty obvious that he may well run. And I think the odds are that he will run, which would be a disaster. One hopes that the prosecutors in New York tie him up pretty thoroughly so that he can't run.
What, tie Trump up?
Yeah, I mean,
they shouldn't do that. I don't even like this Rudy thing.
How else are we going to get rid of him?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You know, he may not see the light of Facebook between now and then. So the Facebook Supreme Court spoke this week. You know about this?
I do know.
And what they said was, this is this oversight board that Zuckerberg created to take the heat off of him for big cancellation decisions, but they actually didn't do him that service, because what they said was, well, you were right. He deserved suspension given his activities on Facebook around January 6th, but you suspended him indefinitely. That's unsatisfactory. What you should do is within 6 months, the Facebook Supreme Court has told Facebook that within 6 months, it needs to come out and tell us how long Trump is suspended for. Is it a permanent suspension? Is it a finite period of time? Now, you know what, Mickey? I did the math. I just want to let you know something. 6 months from the day the Facebook Supreme Court spoke is November 5th. Now, let's say that Facebook on November 5th just picks a round number. 3 years. He's suspended for 3 years. You know what 3 years from 6 months from the day the Facebook Supreme Court spoke is? It is Election Day 2024.
You may have figured out the Rosetta Stone of Facebook. It seemed like a cop-out to me. I mean, it's ridiculous that Trump is banned. Here we have Biden pushing all sorts of controversial policies, and there's nobody with a really big soapbox to oppose them. Now, Trump would oppose them badly and ham-handedly and self-servingly, but, it's not the job of Facebook to decide who's ham-handed and self-serving. And the case against Trump was pretty weak. I mean, if you read it, he said, "We love you" to the rioters. Well, that's a little short of inciting a riot. He said, "Go home, we love you."
Twitter has suspended him has banned him for life. I think they actually, although they didn't have the sense to articulate it this way, they had the killer case against him, because that tweet about Pence when they were in the Capitol and Trump basically accused Pence of treason, knowing they were in the Capitol and that, Pence was in danger. They should just focused on that tweet and said, you're out of here for life. And that would have been a legit decision.
It's a better case for impeaching him than it is for banning him.
Oh, it's fine banning him. They could have done a better job of articulating it than the impeachers did. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see. But don't be surprised if in 6 months they ban Trump for 3 years. I'm just saying. Apparently,
the Zuckerberg's plan for restoring Facebook's reputation is to show the world more of the real Mark Zuckerberg.
What's he doing?
He's cracking jokes. He has Elon Musk envy. He's trying to be a personality. Big mistake.
He should go on Joe Rogan and smoke a joint.
Anyway, I don't think he has the personality, but
I didn't know what's an example of a joke, a Zuckerberg joke.
I didn't click on the joke to find out. This just happened like half an hour ago.
That's a sign of a badly set up joke. This was on Facebook. He did something witty on Facebook.
Yes. Nobody said, "Oh, this is a hilarious joke." I went on the show. Here's my latest paranoid theory.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the show of my friend Ed Martin, who's a Trumpist, probably more of a Trumpist than I am, and he
he voted for him 3 times. Sorry.
No, he. I don't think he wants to get rid of him now.
Okay.
And keep in mind, my plan when voting for him was,
sure. It was, yeah.
We vote for him and then somehow we get rid of him quickly.
Match. That's always the way I do my voting. I vote for someone in hopes that they'll assume office and then die the next day. Most Americans think that way.
It seemed better than the alternative at the time.
Okay.
Because I thought that Biden was going to have a big majority in the Senate. Anyway, he said he'd visited the House. He'd visited his friends in Congress. He's a politician. And they were measuring the drapes to take over the House. The Republicans are completely confident that they can take over the House. All these Democratic retirements, the numbers look good. They just won a big election in Texas. They're totally and that means they don't that means the establishment is still in control. They don't think they really have to make any concessions to Trumpists at all, specifically on immigration, which is the big issue that Biden is vulnerable on, one of the two or three big issues he's vulnerable on. And so it's the same old bullshit. They think they're going to take power and then they're going to pass an amnesty. It's like a nightmare.
But hold on. I mean,
Stefanik is the perfect person to push the amnesty because she's pushed them before.
I agree that the Republicans are almost certainly going to take the House, but that assumes a certain amount of Trumpist energy. That assumes that the Republican candidates have the sense to act as if they like Trump, which means they have to talk the talk to some extent. So it's not like we're going to see the major departures from the Trump talking points.
No, but there's a way to first you can mobilize people with the gun issue and the crime issue. Second, there's a way to raise the immigration issue, which they've perfected, which does not foreclose the possibility of selling out later. So, you say the border is out of control, our immigration system is broken. We need a more orderly system. And then, I heard it's on talk radio driving across the country, on Jay Sekulo's show. The comprehensive immigration would solve all these problems, this disorder. It wouldn't, but that's the party line.
Jay Sekulow has a show. He was one of Trump's attorneys or something.
I thought he did. It was being hosted by his son. So this was Jay Sekulow's son. I don't think it was a very well listened to show. It was not very good, but it was setting up this.
But as you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, all of the shows are bad. That was your conclusion after driving across the country.
Correct.
Talk radio is bad.
This was the worst. There was one local guy who was better than the others, but the guy who had the phone callers who said that there were 8-man crews coming to get their guns, at least he plumbed a level of local paranoia that the national guys didn't plumb.
You know who is, as you yourself have said, is the master of mass communication is Tucker Carlson. And do you mind if I play you another Tucker Carlson highlight? So last week,
you shifted your trolling from Bannon to Tucker Carlson, but Bannon had Stefanik on. He was in the news this week.
Well, Bannon is definitely, I have kind of just fallen away from the Bannon podcast by and large. I'd like to see what's happened to his numbers overall. I'm sure they've dropped. He's just not, he was at the center of the drama. He was like one of the key mobilizing forces for the whole Stop the Steal movement. All the, for the year prior to the election, he was the guy to watch, but I'm just not that interested anymore. You tell me, what do you get from watching? What does he represent? Does he represent what Trumpism will be as it dominates the Republican Party, or no, he's more radical than what it will actually be, right?
I hope so. I never listened to him in the first place, Bob. You're the one who was the fan. Stop the Steal isn't dead. We have the Arizona recount. Aren't you gripped by that? Oh,
I know. They're still reliving that. Trump is still talking about it. Bannon is still, I did tune in enough to know that he's still saying what he was saying, like right after the election, talking about the individual states. We're going to get this state overturned. He's still saying once one falls, they all fall. Like as if we are still going to reverse the election or something. I don't know. But anyway, Tucker, he's moved on from masks to vaccines. Now, this is maybe not quite as wacko as the mask rant I gave you. It's not. But there's something pretty weird about it. Now, I warn you that in between the two Tucker utterances, you do have to listen to a Barack Obama public service announcement, which is what Tucker is commenting on. But, it's good to hear from
PSAs, public service announcements, with its on-air talent demanding that everyone in the country get the shot. Barack Obama just released this creepy little video telling small children to get the shot.
Hi, everybody. It's Barack. Now that every American over the age of 16 is eligible to get the vaccine, I want to talk about you getting yours. The vaccine is safe, it's effective, it's free. I got one. Michelle got one. People you know got one. And now you can get one too. It's the only way we're going to get back to all the things we love, from safely spending time with grandparents to going to concerts and watching live sports. So get the vaccine as soon as you can.
Some creepy old guy telling your children, your little kids, to take medicine whose effects we do not fully understand. It's totally normal. Yeah, that happens every day. Don't ask questions. Just do it. As CNN explained recently, we're not getting our freedom back until you do.
Here's like what. So first of all, he says twice. He says Obama is telling small children to get the vaccine. Then you hear Obama, he's saying 16-year-old. That's age 17. When you're 17, you're old enough to have sex with Matt Gaetz. Okay. Tucker wouldn't say Matt Gaetz is having sex with small children. That's okay.
But maybe in the video he was talking to small children. I wondered that too.
No, it's all Obama. I saw it. It's just Obama. That's all you're seeing. It's an Obama taping. It's just Obama.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
and he doesn't even say these 17-year-old kids should get vaccinated. He just says, now that people over 16 are eligible, I want to say, talk to you about you getting your vaccine. But the serious question is like, doesn't Tucker's audience, I know like they're all in for Tucker and everything, but when he says you're going to hear a creepy guy tell small children to get the vaccine, and then Obama comes on and notes that 17-year-olds are eligible, doesn't that kind of hurt his stock a little? It just seems weird.
I think he's been hurting his stock a lot, and I can't quite understand it either. I mean, there's a conspiracy theory, I guess, that the Fox people sort of like his high ratings and don't want him to run for president, so they're telling him to do things that will destroy his political viability. But
I thought he didn't have much advertising revenue because so few advertisers want to be on his show.
I don't know that, but I don't think their only revenue is advertising revenue. You don't think it fees from cable companies?
Well, they get those regardless of what they put on. And maybe those correspond to ratings. I don't know. But
the ratings, the ratings govern Fox. I know that. So if he keeps coming up with wacky new, ever more irresponsible themes to bring up on his show, it's in pursuit of ratings, I think. And they get ratings every quarter hour, so they know which guests are good. And so, as John Ellis says, the viewers program the network. The network doesn't program the viewers. So there's that, and he may be, but why would he let himself do that?
Well, right. I mean, this is in his hands. The network doesn't come in one day and say, okay, Tucker, you have to act crazy again tonight. I mean,
they do. The viewers do. He flipped from being COVID is something to worry about to COVID is exaggerated overnight.
But that was his call, I'm sure.
It was because the viewers rebelled.
Yeah, the viewers, but not. What I'm saying is, it's not the decision of the network chiefs when he does something like this.
They say follow the viewers, asshole.
Well, right. He's incentivized to get ratings, but his decision to do it in this particular manner, I mean, he just seems to be getting weirder and weirder, and that must say something about something. I don't know.
I think it says that.
But you still support him for president, am I right?
It's a horse race between him and J.D. Vance.
For your support, you mean?
For the Mickey primary, yes.
Can I just make one other point? Just quickly before we move on. Your hair looks marvelous.
Thank you.
And you're still not going to tell us what this is about.
J.D. Vance is making a big deal of this this child care credit in the Biden stimulus, as opposed to the child tax, the refundable child tax care credit, which just sends cash to people. The child care tax credit subsidizes formal daycare. Mm-hmm. And his point is that parents would rather take care of their kids by themselves, maybe, rather than put things into institutionalized daycare with credentialism and unions and all that crap. And he may be right, but then the big question is, will he also endorse sending the cash to parents who don't work? And then that's
the big question for Mickey, not necessarily a big question for people out there.
He's gotten queries on Twitter, including one, as I said last week, one from Matt Iglesias saying, which way are you going to jump on this? So we don't know which way he's going to jump.
Wait, what do we know about his position? I thought he said he has
an open mind and he prefers Hawley's plan, but he didn't say
But he is against preschool education support, right?
I don't know about that. He's talking about daycare.
He tweeted.
He's not talking about preschool education. I don't know that at all that he's against preschool education.
Oh, I meant like pre-K, meaning daycare, basically. Those are different. Okay.
Biden has promised 2 years of formal preschool. That's different from daycare. I think that's actually in a school, and it's not the really young ages. So, what do I know about birthing personing? You can't say mother anymore. You have to say birthing person.
Wait.
Or is it birthing-able person?
Mothering. I don't think I used to use mothering as a verb anyway, did I?
You can't say mother.
Come on.
Up against the wall, birthing person.
It's like redneck birthing person.
Right. Anyway, the latest flavor of the month among Republicans is Tim Scott, which seems ridiculous to me. Coulter had a pretty good column pointing out that what's the point of a guy who's sort of half BLM, who doesn't counter BLM, but sort of.
Well, maybe he could win. Maybe he's a compromise candidate. He seems like a pretty likable guy.
He's a very likable guy, but that's not enough to be president.
I'm gonna bet. I mean, being an unlikable guy seems to be enough. We've had in succession an unlikable guy and a likable guy. So apparently you're safe either way. Now, Mickey, here's something relevant to this whole business of child subsidies, child tax credit. The birth rate, we learned this week, America's birth rate declined for the 6th straight year.
Unknown caller.
Now that's your hairdresser. Pick that up. You got 2 different rings.
Hello.
Is that a robot?
It was Lisa from Spectrum asking me if I was paying high bills for my internet and TV.
Was it a real person or a robot?
I don't think it was a real person.
You didn't treat it like a real person.
Her name was Lisa.
Okay. So, birth rate, there's a real, we face the real specter of population decline in America. And you saw what happened in Japan, Mickey. They're languishing now. There are 2 things I can imagine we could do about this. I'm sure you'll support them both. One would be more immigration. The other would be tax credit to support, children, so that we'll have more children, especially low middle income. You like those?
It's not clear to me that a declining population is a particular problem for any purpose other than beating China and having the maximum GDP possible that we can tax and turn into defense contracts. Other than that, are the Japanese? Do they think they have a horrible quality of life? They're building robots to do tasks that they don't have enough people to do, and people who've been to Japan say they're doing fine. They're not asking for help. I wouldn't mind at all.
They are importing labor, and they don't give
They're trying to import labor, but they're such racists that nobody wants to go live in Japan if they're not Japanese.
I'm not sure I'd put it like, well, there's a slightly different problem is they're importing the labor, but they're very reluctant to grant any kind of path to citizenship. They are just guest workers for a few years, and then they're supposed to leave.
I rely mainly on Noah Smith for this, probably a mistake, but my impression is they're having trouble recruiting people. Look, we can always open up to immigration if we want. If our immigration system works and assimilates people, great. That's an option we have. What we can't do is open up to immigration and then realize we've let in too many people.
Mickey,
so it's like getting your hair cut, Bob. You can cut it, but you can't make it grow longer.
And yet, look what happened to you between last week and this week, Mickey. It's Miracle Grow. But wait, Mickey, you yourself have, I would not say embraced replacement theory, but have said it shouldn't surprise us if white people in America start worrying about being replaced. Well, if that's a problem, them feeling that way, then the solution isn't immigration. By your own lights, it's a higher birth rate.
If we, I think a higher birth rate is something if we really think it's a problem that we should try first, keep in mind, as countries around the world get richer, the birth rate goes down. It seems to be an ineluctable law. So we want to get richer, and that means the birth rate will go down. It's sort of foolish to pretend.
But I think it's now below.
It's not, and though maybe it goes down to below replacement.
I think it's about there now. Yeah.
There are some countries. I think Yugoslavia has offered a bonus for having children, and it seems to have worked. So you could try that.
But wait, that's exactly what you're against. That's what you rail against.
I'm against giving it to. No, I'm not against giving it to families as long as there's a minimum work requirement, and that's quite negotiable. What I'm against is taking non-families and families that do no work and saying, okay, you can live on this child payment. If you have a working family and you give them a little bit of assistance, which is the bulk of the people who would get the child tax credit, that's fine. So, the Hawley plan that J.D. Vance says he favors does not give money to non-workers. The Rubio plan does not give money to non-workers. They both subsidize childbirth, and I have no particular problem with that. The Romney plan and the Biden plan both would recreate welfare by giving it to non-workers. So I'm only for not giving it to the half or a third who don't work. It's less than half. So you're mischaracterizing my position. But we should try that before we open the floodgates to immigration. We should also make sure that we have full employment for everybody who wants a job before we start bringing in low-wage workers, because that's what prompts replacement fears. If people don't have a job and they see the job going to an immigrant, that's what's going to happen now. We've put if you look at the job numbers are disappointing, yet employers are screaming that they can't find the workers because the workers are all getting their high unemployment checks and don't want to go to work. And 1 million people are coming in the southern border. So what's going to happen? Those 1 million people are going to take the jobs, and the Americans are going to be out of luck when the benefits expire in September. So you could argue that replacement is exactly what's going on now, and business wants more replacement.
What is happening at the border? Suddenly, you're not reading about it.
No, I think I talked about it last time.
No, I said you're not reading about it. For a while, it was like in the headlines, crisis at the border.
Well, sure, Biden, because Biden is counting on the press losing interest and also the press being pro-Biden. So he's showing them an empty border patrol facility when really he's just moved all the women and kids to another HHS facility. And he says, see, the border patrol facilities are empty. We have it under control. Well, the people are still here and they're still getting in. But that is a total sideshow, because women and children are not the bulk of the people coming in. The bulk of the people getting in are these single men who are just sneaking in. They're not claiming asylum. They're just sneaking in part while the border patrol is distracted, and in part because Biden doesn't really seem to want to stop them, So 18-wheelers are pulling up. They're letting out a cargo of single, healthy adult males. And those people, 80, 90%, 70% of them are getting in, and they're not going to leave. So that's our new workforce.
I'm surprised you can't generate some publicity for this.
Well, Todd Bensman went to the border and did a very good report, and it hasn't been picked up, shockingly, by the mainstream media. And you can speculate as to why that is.
So, here's a headline. Here's a quiz for you. The headline from this week is, reaching herd immunity is unlikely in the U.S., experts now believe. Now, Mickey, what one person more than any other is responsible for this fact?
For not reaching herd immunity?
The fact that the apparent fact that we're not going to reach herd immunity.
You're going to say Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump. No. I don't think Trump has been that important.
Totally.
Has Trump said people shouldn't get vaccinated?
He, more than anyone, is responsible for turning the whole how seriously do we take this? Do we wear masks into a political issue?
The vaccine is his baby. He takes credit for the vaccine. Does he order? He says, I'm great because I created this vaccine, but don't take it? No, he doesn't say that.
He doesn't say don't take it, but he tribalized this whole issue, and now it's Republicans who are on the anti-vax side of the issue, and that's kind of a logical extension of the way of his own messaging. B, if he wanted to intervene now, he could make a big difference. I mean, it is literally true that if he really wanted to, he could push us to herd immunity. Probably, if he really wanted to turn it into his cause, he could do it. He could get tens and tens of millions of people to get vaccinated. He won't do it.
Has he gotten vaccinated? I think he has.
Yeah, he did get vaccinated.
Well,
but will he encourage anyone else to do? Maybe he will, and surprise me.
He'll do whatever is good for him. And so if he takes credit for the vaccine, and if Biden would give him some fucking credit for the vaccine, maybe he would bask in the glory of promoting his own vaccine, and then he could say, "I pushed you into herd immunity." Great. It seems to me you have a shot at doing that, actually. Well,
actually, if he did these messages, that would be a good way to regain some of the credit he thinks he deserves. He could,
Well, there we go. We get your pal Bannon on the case, and we'll make it happen.
I should call Steve. Okay.
Anyway, I'm for that. Although, I say keep an open mind that the vaccine might have side effects that we don't know about, but it seemed worth the risk. That's why I took it. But it seems to me there is a risk.
I think it's been good for your hair. Have you looked at your hair lately since you got the vaccine?
No, I have an idea.
You should check it out. It just seems richer. It just seems a little fuller.
I do take vitamin A, which I think has been debunked, but I take it anyway. And I think vitamin A causes all your hair and hair-like things to grow. Like my nails, I have to cut them every day. They grow incredibly quickly. Is that true? Is that what vitamin A does?
I have no idea, but it seems to be working on your hair. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bob.
I
think you're coming back to reality now.
So what else? The Justice Department.
It felt like you were trying to gaslight me there for a minute.
No, I wouldn't do. I'm just funning you, Mickey. There's really nothing noticeably different about you. Same lustrous hair as always.
Bill Gates is getting divorced in an event that screams Jeffrey Epstein. Here's our Epstein angle.
I've met his wife. I met her. I gave a little talk to the Gates Foundation, but I mean just the maybe I don't know 20, 30 people who work there, and she was there. We chatted. Perfectly wonderful human being. I condemn him for divorcing her. Now I'm staying out of this actually.
But it does seem a little coincidental that he is, he was a friend of Epstein's. He went and said, his lifestyle is interesting. It's probably not for me. And then his PR person said, by lifestyle, he just meant the decor in Epstein's mansion.
Now, that was in an email or something that was later leaked, right? It's not like Gates came out and said that to the cameras.
New York Times. It's in a New York Times story. It's an email she sent to the New York Times.
Wait, that she sent?
Yeah.
Because this came out long ago. This email.
Yes, but the point is,
you're saying she leaked it in the first place?
Not
his
Belinda, the PR person.
Wait. How did the email get out there?
I assume the New York Times reporter said, "What's up with Bill Gates constantly hobnobbing with Epstein?" And this quote from he allegedly said that Epstein had an interesting lifestyle, and the PR person, being an idiot,
I would say,
said, and not having any better answer, said that all by lifestyle he just meant the decor in his house. Gates has hobnobbed with Epstein way too much. Supposedly he visited him in Paris. There's nothing that has raised the suspicion that Gates partook of the Epstein offerings more than his divorce from his wife.
Hey, what we need?
It happens just when Ghislaine Maxwell seems to be ready to spill the beans on people as part of her plea bargain deal. So if you were Bill Gates and if you were implicated in the Epstein shenanigans, this would be the time to let your wife get her distance from it.
Huh. Now there was a piece somewhere, probably in the New York Post or something, saying that when she was with him when he met Epstein, or anyway, she was present. She was in Epstein's presence, according to this piece I read somewhere today, and afterwards was kind of unhappy with the fact that Gates had any kind of relationship with this creepy guy. Supposedly, this is supposedly the case.
Well, that's interesting. Well, that would be quite rational, if who knows what goes on in a marriage, right? But if he downplayed the extent of his association with Epstein, and the truth is that there was more association that he didn't tell her, or that was not public, and it's about to come out. My impression is that even wives who know their husbands are, and I'm not saying this is the case with Gates, but fooling around, the breaking point is often not the fooling around, but the making public of the fooling around.
Sometimes
people don't like to be humiliated in public.
This is true,
but you're not hitting Melinda Gates in the sore spot, in her sore spot.
I'm not.
What's her sore spot, Bob?
What is her sore spot?
Yeah.
I only met her once. She didn't tell me. I forgot to ask. Sometimes I ask women that. Sometimes I don't. What is it? What is the answer?
Clippy.
She came up with. Was she Clippy, Mr. Paperclip's mother, Clippy, or what do you say now instead of mother? What do you say?
She was the birthing person of Clippy.
The birthing person of Clippy.
I don't know. She was the champion of Clippy, I believe. And Clippy was this animated paperclip that was supposed to guide you through various things in Microsoft. It was a total disaster. And Jim Fallows actually said that internally in the code that created Clippy, it was called TFC. TFC meaning this fucking clown.
For you younger viewers, Clippy, it was a little icon of it was like an animated paperclip, and you'd be using Microsoft Word, and it would jump out and say, "Can I help you?" And you'd be like, "No, it's totally beyond your capacity to help. You've never helped anyone. Shut the fuck up." And
I don't think Clippy is dead yet. I think Clippy still lives somehow.
So you know what we need from you, Mickey? As long as you're carrying the Gates divorce into Epstein land, we need you to be the one who does the grand unified theory. Bill Gates, Matt Gates. Bring it together, Mickey. Remember, the Matt Gates thing has a connection to this Israeli operative who's paying them. Wait, no, he's paying or he's getting the money. Anyway, he wants to have these people released from Iran. He's involved. Now, I don't need to tell you that the Epstein thing, has, according to some people, an Israeli angle. Bring it all together, Mickey.
I can't do that. The Epstein-Israel angle has faded somewhat with the reports that he gave this trust advice to Leon Black, this billionaire, very rich man, maybe not a billionaire, but head of Apollo hedge fund, and apparently it was. It was actually good advice that saved Black a shitload of money that Epstein actually earned because his advice was like totally from left field, but it actually worked. The professionals that Black had retained said this is crazy. It was an idea so crazy that it worked. And so it's possible that Epstein actually earned some money legitimately, which means his reliance on subsidies from pro-Israel interests would be less. On the other hand, it's possible Leon Black himself was a pro-Israel interest. So you never know. But I haven't been I've been troubled by the possibility that Epstein might have had some legitimate.
That would really take some of the joy out of your life, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would, Bob. But anyway, I can't do the there's
Matt Gates, Bill Gates.
There's this famous Leon Wieseltier inversion. It's not the gates of hell that await us; it's the hell of Gates.
Meaning Bill?
Yes, but
that's
now we
have not one of his better lines.
Now we have the hell of Bill and Matt. So it really is the Leon Wieseltier apocalypse. The hell of Gates is upon us. But no, I can't do that. But I do. This is a big moment for Ghislaine Maxwell. They've postponed her trial. And she's negotiating more. And what will she do? It's hard to believe she'll give up everybody. So how much, will she give up some people and not give up other people? Is there a way that the people who don't want to be given up can get to her and offer her a tacit bribe not to unload on them? Is she just going to pick and choose on the basis of who she likes? Do the prosecutors want? Are the prosecutors saying, "Give me the head of Bill Gates," or do the prosecutors really want Donald Trump, or what's going on with them? So it would be very, very fascinating if we knew anything about what was going on, but I don't. But anyway, that's my Epstein interlude today.
So Justice Department indicted the Minneapolis cops, all of them, not just Chauvin, right?
That seemed like overkill. The guy's already convicted of murder.
Well, I was thinking about the other guys. I mean, these are junior guys. Chauvin is a superior officer to them. And in fact, I think he had just finished training one or two of them. And one of them said, when he turned the guy over on his side, he was kind of trying to intervene.
Right.
And, I assume that the police are somewhat like the military in the sense that hierarchy is sacrosanct. I mean, it's unless you if you see someone you're sure is actually committing a crime, you're supposed to not follow the order. But, I think it'd be asking a lot for like a rookie cop to like push his boss off of, the guy he was on top of or something. But anyway,
I have very, very poor impression of who Chauvin is. Is he an asshole?
Nobody knows. He's got no footprints. Why didn't he take
the stand and explain himself? It couldn't have turned out worse than it did.
Well, we know that now. Yeah. I mean, I thought if he could have taken the stand and showed some remorse, at some point say, "I'm sorry it happened," and start crying. That would have been very good.
The jury went off on all sorts of emotional things, like he showed no remorse and like he was smirking.
And he had a mask on almost the whole time, so they could imagine the worst. I mean, he had very little in the way of human expressions that they could see. Yeah, except I think he took it off when they were instructing the jury or something like that, but it was on almost the whole time.
Huh? Oh, not during the Floyd incident, but during the jury.
No. I mean, when the jury was looking at him, they didn't see like a full human being. But nobody knows. It's a mystery. He apparently is married. I don't think he has kids. His wife, I think, left him right after this happened.
Of course, now that we know that one of the jurors was a BLM activist, or at least wore a BLM T-shirt, I doubt he could have reached that guy. But he only has to reach one or two.
One.
Right. Well, I assume that.
Although it has to be, it's hard to withstand the peer pressure if it's 11-1.
The best he could hope for was a compromise verdict on a lesser charge, but
or just a mistrial.
I don't know why there's this knee jerk. We can't ever have the client. Maybe my brother or somebody who knows more about criminal law can explain to me why you never have your client take the stand. I guess, is it possible the defense lawyer was overconfident in his case? I mean, he'd done a pretty good job, but.
I mean, usually they're afraid that there are a bunch of questions they can ask you that you're not going to be able to handle well. But honestly, in this case, I think it would have, easy to say now, but it seems like it would have been worth the gamble, because his main hope was to just manage to convince him that he really didn't think he'd kill the guy.
Also, it would be such a surprise. I mean, they probably had inadequately prepared for it.
By the way, apparently Ann Coulter is right. I think this is the first time I've said that phrase. And apparently Ann Coulter is right. Yeah, I don't think I've ever said that. But the thing, you said that she had said that he didn't have his hand, Chauvin didn't have his hand in his pocket. Apparently that's true. I mean, like they did, the close-up thing. He had these black gloves on. And that's amazing, because that's like that picture became iconic. That shaped a lot of perceptions. But he had this black glove on, and it happened to match his pants. And you look at a close up of it. I assumed that this was a legit source I was looking at. They did their special highlighting thing and magnified it, and you could see the outline of his hand. But a little late for that to help him. But that's a good example of something. If his defense attorney did not bring that out, there must have been a way to bring that out, right? Because the alternate juror mentioned that, right?
Yes.
She had sat through the trial, and she still believed that Chauvin had his hand in his pocket.
No, that's true. That could be a way that the guy screwed up. But there is a backlash that may be coming on crime. There's a big election in Pennsylvania on the 18th, where the woke, I don't know if he's a woke DA, but he's a progressive DA who eliminates bail and does all the things that the progressive DAs, who are weirdly, coincidentally, always being followed by vast increases of crime around the country, are doing. And seems to have become a little toxic, and he may get beaten in the Democratic primary, which would be a signal that there's some kind of backlash against the progressive criminal policies producing crime. There have been other backlash incidents. There was a school board where they banned critical race theory in Texas.
Texas, I wouldn't call that a huge challenge.
Right. Okay.
It depends on the school board. Do you know where it was?
No, I got the impression it was a fairly affluent area, but maybe I'm wrong. Of course, the other thing is,
I'm surprised it was there in the first place.
I think Latinos are somewhat resistant to critical race theory as well as whites.
What is, you know what I'm going to ask you in the Parrot Room, Mickey, to explain critical race theory to me. I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure.
I can just refer people to an Andrew Sullivan column, which was very good. It seems to assume that there's racism in everything and take it from there.
Never mind.
He did a pretty good job explaining it. I can't do better. And there's also a huge backlash, or at least a backlash brewing among elite New York private schools like Brearley and Dalton and Collegiate, where, according to Kay Heimowitz, the teachers are wildly unhappy. The classrooms are run by the students, particularly the female students who are woke, who don't want to do anything new and don't want to read anything that's going to upset them. And everybody hates it, except I don't know who likes it. The administrators seem to be tolerant of it, but the parents are the ultimate authority there, I would think. And so I think that there's a possible backlash brewing there.
Wouldn't surprise me. The other big realm is the corporate, diversity training stuff. I'm sure there's a wholesome version of that might do some good, but
sure,
I'm sure there are some that don't.
I believe in unconscious bias. I mean, I think there is unconscious bias. So,
of course,
as your book explained to me, the unconscious is real. So there is something constructive that could be done, but I doubt that they're doing it. There was a very interesting piece by Roger Altman, who I think was Clinton's Treasury Secretary, or he had some high position in the Clinton administration. Then he went to private industry, and he owned the Inquirer for a while. His firm is called Evercore, basically saying, look, corporate leaders have no choice. Millennials are our workforce. We have to keep them happy. Basically admitting millennials are running the show. And he actually used the word millennials. He did not, he wasn't vague about it. He said, this is the generation that's driving it. And that puts the decision of all these woke corporations in some kind of perspective. It also led me to think, would it be legal to discriminate against hiring against millennials? And I posted something on Twitter saying, it's not that we hate the young. People who are younger than millennials are fine. It's not that we hate the old. People older than millennials are fine. It's just this narrow band we want to discriminate against. And it didn't attract that much attention, and B, the attention it attracted seemed to indicate that it wasn't illegal, that it's only illegal to discriminate against people over 50. So you have 10 more years to not hire millennials before they can sue us.
My daughters are millennials, Mickey. Careful. I do want to talk about millennials.
Let them try to apply for a job at kausfiles and see what happens, Bob.
I bet I could get them a job at kausfiles.
There are no jobs at kausfiles.
But if there were.
If there were, you could, probably.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful girls, as you know.
They're lovely people, having met them.
Let's see. How long have we been doing this? I can come up with the answer immediately. 54 minutes. We're approaching the hour mark, Mickey. Time flies. It was kind of a slow week. I do think can we give Joe Biden a little credit for finally being prepared to do these intellectual property waivers for the vaccines? I mean, we're not all the way home yet. Some other things have to happen for this to.
Why is that a good thing? It doesn't produce more vaccine apparently because the hang up is the production capacity. B, why not preserve the incentive for these companies to dream of vaccines by buying them? We're confiscating property that we're supposed to give just compensation when we confiscate property.
Well,
so let's sell Pfizer. Okay, we'll pay you X amount for all this vaccine. So Pfizer is happy and the world is happy.
Well, I mean, first of all, they're making so much money off of this that this will go down as positive reinforcement for vaccine research in their annals by a long shot. But I was wondering the same thing long ago when Biden was resisting this call to suspend IP, thinking like, why don't you do a little compromise? In other words, yes, use your authority to demand to, get this done, but still say to them, we'll get you like a dollar per vaccine. I mean, remember, we're talking about a case where the pharmaceutical company doesn't have to spend any money. Somebody just sets up a factory. They get the know-how. They do the vaccine. And if you say to the vaccine company, look, we'll make sure you get $1 per dose or something. So this will be making money for you. You could get, Bill Gates could literally buy vaccines for the whole world and it wouldn't even make a dent. It's like a rounding error in his wealth. And so I was wondering, why didn't they work out something like that makes a few American billionaires feel like, white saviors of the world or whatever, and keeps the pharmaceuticals happy. But anyway, this is better than nothing.
Why
there will be a
government...
time lag. We're not ready to exploit this yet, and there's some other things that have to be done.
The more I read about it, the more it seemed like a stunt by Biden to appease the left, and it's actually not going to produce any more vaccine.
Well, that's almost intrinsic in the thing. In other words, they've known all along that you heed the call to suspend the IP. You're not home yet. I mean, you have to get the know-how to factories. But look, we could be in this for a long time.
There seem to be various international bodies that have to give their approval too, and they're not giving it.
Well, we need to convince some more rich companies that are still resisting this, I think.
I mean, Merkel has said no.
Yeah. But when you think about it, it's absolutely crazy that the world hasn't done something like this. It's a global pandemic. I mean, what this indicates is that we just, in this realm, we do not have the degree of international governance that you really need to tackle truly global problems. We're just not dealing with this thing rationally at a global level. And I rest my case. The
international example of the EU is not very encouraging in this respect, since they fucked it up and lone countries like the U.S. and Britain didn't fuck it up.
Well, they didn't fuck it up from their national point of view, but that doesn't mean that was helpful from a global perspective or even in the long run from a national perspective. If failing to address it at a global perspective, leads us to have 3 new killer variants a year from now.
Well, it's their fuck up at vaccinating people that's going to lead to new variants. How does it help the world if the EU was slow at getting the vaccine out?
Well, first of all, I don't think the total number of vaccines that entered the world was affected by anything the EU did, right?
No, I think they delayed regulatory approval stupidly for a month or so, yeah. And they're catching up to us now. But I mean,
look, we've been slow on regulatory approval. We still haven't done AstraZeneca, and a lot of places have. But it's in the nature of regulatory bodies that they sometimes won't move fast enough for some people. But that's not about the EU any more than our failure to approve AstraZeneca as an indictment of national governments.
Why haven't we approved AstraZeneca?
I don't know.
Because we have 3 better vaccines and we don't need it.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a ton of data on it. It's just that we didn't collect the data, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't connected in the U.S. I don't know.
There's all sorts of things to talk about.
You mean now or in the Parrot Room?
Well, you're going to say put it in the Parrot Room, but let's talk about at least one of them now.
Okay.
It seems clear to me that it looks, there was all this. This isn't necessarily the best one. There was all this talk that the voting rights bill S1 was going to be the engine, the battering ram that was going to cause the Democrats to abolish the filibuster.
Which is not going to happen.
Which seems to be not going to happen. They're having huge troubles getting support for it. And there's the pangolins are on the run, Bob. There's all.
Is that the way you pronounce it? Pangolin.
The pangolins, the pangolins, the pangolin.
Pangolin. I think it's pangolin, because remember, I actually at one point sang Pangolin Delight to the tune of Afternoon Delight. I think it was Pangolin Delight. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Wait, what are you saying? What about pangolins?
Well, there's a huge article by Nicholas Wade saying that not only does the weight of the evidence, and he didn't say it was conclusive, point to a leak from the Wuhan lab, as opposed to animal transmission through the pangolins, from bats to humans, but also it was probably an enhanced version of the virus, so it was probably optimized to infect humans, because that's the research they were working on. He doesn't say it was intentionally released, but it was intentionally optimized. And what's more, it was funded by Anthony Fauci. So it's all Fauci's fault. So those are the three new things in the Wade article. But it does get them away from, it's the evil Communist Party.
No. I mean, if this is what happened, it was a case of you doing what's called gain of function research, which is apparently right-minded researchers do it, including Americans.
I don't understand it. Why?
Well, the idea apparently, it seems risky to me, and I imagine we will revisit the wisdom of it if it becomes clear that this is what happened. But yeah, and there were American researchers involved in this, I think, and that were connected with a lab, that were collaborating, because apparently there's something researchers do. They intentionally manipulate the genetic constitution of a virus to see ways in which it could become more lethal or more transmissible. Well, you better have really good security if you're going to do that. And I'm not totally sure I understand the value of doing it. There must be some, but yeah, it looks like that could be what happened. I mean, this is, again, it in a certain sense, I guess, could happen to anybody. It's a kind of research that's done in various countries, but it's not crazy that happened. Yeah.
I guess the argument would still be that China was sloppy and then covered it up.
Well, even there, I mean, we can talk about all that in the Parrot Room if you want, in terms of what I think kind of happened. It wasn't some grand. I don't think it was some grand conspiracy to prevent it from the world. We got they gave us the sequence of the virus on January 6th. And by the way, do you realize that within 1 month of that, Moderna had the vaccine? Within 1 month of January 6th of 2020, when the sequence was released by the Chinese, they had the vaccine. And then the rest was testing.
Apparently, it's not that difficult to design a vaccine once you know what the spike protein looks like. So
I think the mRNA is a revolutionary thing in that regard, and it bodes well for our ability to adapt to variants. I hope. But it's the testing. They got to speed up the testing.
Yeah. There's a medical blogger whose name Derek Lowe. Who blogs? Who as soon as the sequence was released, he said, "Well, this looks like a promising point, and this looks like a promising point, and that looks like a promising point." He didn't imply that the difficult part was designing something that would target the promising points. The difficult part is the testing, and you might get it wrong. So it's just good that they got it right. Anyway, I don't think we want to talk about the Chinese culpability in the Parrot Room.
I've said all I know. I mean, it wasn't some weapons lab.
There's plenty of data that the investigators want to get that they can't get even to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the other interesting thing in that Wade article was that, in terms of getting to the bottom of this, I'm now aware of a second force for obfuscation. I mean, the first is the crazy Bannonites like, Peter Navarro saying could have been intentionally released. It's intentionally developed and released bioweapon, which is, nuts. I mean, if you were going to release it, you wouldn't do it in China if you're the Chinese. But from the other side, the Wade article pointed out that if you look at the initial kind of rush to dismiss any kind of lab escape hypothesis, including this much more innocent one, some of the people who were dismissive of the possibility were high-powered American researchers who had a stake in this. And they were, there's some guy in New York who organized, some big shot scientists organized a letter writing dismissively about the possibility of laboratory escape. And he had some connection to the Wuhan lab. But the point is, there's always all these people with vested interests, ideological, financial, whatever.
I heard right as that was going on, very early on, a big shot whose name you would know, whose name I can't divulge, went to a group of Wall Streeters and said, "Look, it was escape from a lab." I mean,
I was hearing that pretty early, and I have not been dismissive. I have not been dismissive of that.
I thought you were dismissive, but did you?
No, go find it. Go find it. I've been dismissive of the weapons, of the weapon. Yeah,
but there's a heavy case for China being irresponsible. I mean, right now we're all cowering that a Chinese rocket might land on our heads. Because China is the only country that launches heavy rockets that then fall back to Earth uncontrolled and land on random people's heads. Apparently, it's much more likely to land on our heads if we lived in the Sudan. But it might hit Khartoum, and there are millions of people who live in Khartoum, and this fucking Chinese rocket is coming down.
And you have long evinced concern for the welfare of people who live in Khartoum.
I just think it's irresponsible when no other nation does this for them to do it. It's not a point in their favor as global citizens.
They'll be shamed out of doing it again. But as long as we're talking about
they don't seem to be shamed out of much, Bob.
Okay, we've been doing this an hour.
The Uyghurs would be in much better shape if China was shamed out of doing it.
Let's take it to the Parrot Room. We're gonna talk China, including this crazy China bill supported by. Basically largely created by, co-sponsored by Robert Menendez. I've got a piece in the Nonzero newsletter that goes out right now, today, about what a menace Menendez is, this bill being an example. I want to talk about that. The whole China thing.
What does this bill do?
Oh, I'll tell you in the Parrot Room, Mickey.
It's like, does it have any, is it bigger than a bread box? It has to do with China?
Yeah, it's called what is it? Strategic Competition Act or something. It's all about. It's got some kind of seemingly nutty language. The guy is just a menace, and we'll talk about it. It's an interesting question. Like, why is the most hawkish person in the entire Democratic Party chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee? How does this happen?
Especially when he's not guilty of many federal crimes.
Right. I mean, he's lucky not to be in jail. He got off on a mistrial, as we note in this piece. He got off on a mistrial, but still was condemned by the Senate. He's a total sleazeball.
Talking about things in the Parrot Room is saying we should take it to the Parrot Room is your way of tapping out, Bob.
What do you mean by tapping out? What does that mean here?
It's a wrestling term when you're caught in a clench and you want to get out.
No, I'm totally. Oh no, I'm going to kick your ass in the Parrot Room.
Parrot Room is your safe.
I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to kick your ass. I'll tell you, I would pay to see what's going to happen in the Parrot Room, Mickey.
There's a bunch of other stuff.
For myself.
There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about. There's Ron Brownstein's description of what's new about Bidenomics, and he's right about some things and I think wrong about others. There is the annoying tendency of the other side to insist that Trumpists confess to too much. There is, on the other hand, there's the annoying tendency of people on the Trump side to say, well, how dare the Democrats try to produce these big changes with a slim majority? Well, why can't they?
Don't leave it in the locker room, Mickey.
There's the Twitter tips. You're going to give us Twitter tips? Twitter people are going to start being tipped, Bob. We can talk about that.
Oh, good.
And a whole bunch of other good stuff.
Okay, so, and we will continue our psychoanalysis of you in the Parrot Room. I want to finally make good on my promise or threat or whatever to talk about this World War I book. I keep saying I'll do it. I'm going to say at least something. I want to talk a little about woke Disneyland. There was a piece about that in the Washington Post.
Why would you want to psychoanalyze me, Bob?
Yeah, it's not like we've seen any strange behavior lately. What lustrous hair, Mickey.
Okay.
So you're not going to tell us you're going to tell us in the Parrot Room what the deal is with the hair?
There's nothing out of the ordinary, Bob. I don't know what you're talking about.
Reminds me of what is it in Twin Peaks? Is it the father Leland who just suddenly shows up and there's suddenly what? Oh, his hair has suddenly turned white or something. Anyway, I'm not saying this is like that because that hair's not white. Maybe talk a little bit about Zuckerberg in the Parrot Room. Like, can you convince me that and don't tell us, don't give it away, that he actually has any kind of moral compass at all? That's what I ask you. Maybe talk a little about millennials and whether, I worry about the millennials. Of course, I have a couple of children of mine, but still I worry about them. And I want to say a couple of other things. So anyway, Parrot Room at patreon.com/Parrot Room. You can go there just to support Bob and Mickey, and who wouldn't want to do that? But also that would give you access to the Parrot Room. And Mickey, I want to thank somebody who, an amazing thing happened last week. Okay. I said, please rate and review the Wright Show. And then I went to my podcast app, and the day after I asked that, there was a new review, which was 5 stars. Now, you may say, only one new review? Okay, but on this podcast app, Podcast Addict is not a big part of the market. There's only 3 reviews of my show in all of history, and one of them I wrote, okay? So if a new review shows up the day after I call for people to rate and review my show, I got to draw a causal inference here, right?
Yes. They didn't take down the third one because they figured it was a friend of yours?
No, it just says excellent, 5 stars. That's what I wrote. I was in a hurry.
That happened to my book, and it was really annoying. Somebody gave it a really good review, and Amazon immediately took it down because it seemed implausibly positive. And yet, I had nothing to do with it.
And it's funny. There was one the day before I asked, I think, the day before. Yeah. Isn't that weird? The only 2 reviews. I think Podcast Addict just made it much easier to write reviews. So maybe I'll take all that back. Anyway, rate and review. Also, when we asked people to smash the like button on YouTube, I think they did it. Either that or that was just a hell of a show because we doubled our normal number. So we encourage that. We asked for that. We begged.
Great. Although the Wright Show, you talked to so many people other than me.
Mickey, you're 50% of the Wright shows. One person, one man.
That makes me feel better. I feel better. It's like a husband telling his wife, you're 50% of the women I sleep with are you. I
can't say that to you, Mickey, although if you keep working on your hair, it'll seem a little more plausible. But anyway, you're not going to tell us in the Parrot Room, like, what is the deal with the hair?
There's no deal with the hair. You're starting to really annoy me. It is.
Okay. Well, anyway, you look marvelous, and we will see you in the Parrot Room.